Even more will show how one betrayal turned his life into a fight for truth and justice. Do you know what an 8M room is? Since I wear size 10.5 shoes, it only takes me a little over 9 steps to walk, and I've done that a lot lately. You see, I've had too much free time over the past 4 months, and since I don't have a laptop right now, I'm trying to find something to occupy my mind. I either recite the periodic table in my head, or the formulas I've worked on before. Sometimes I lie in bed, listen to the sounds around me, and try to identify them to pass the time. I keep telling myself that I acted in the best interests of my daughter. I know this is true, but now I wonder if I had other motives for my actions. I'm not sure of anything anymore though, but that's the story I'm sticking with, at least until I get out of here. Good morning, Mr. Moore. How are you feeling today? My lawyer, Victoria Howe, asked me as I was led to a long, shiny wooden table, and my handcuffs were removed. Pretty good. I lost 2 more pounds. I think I'll be at my ideal weight by Christmas. You know I can do 100 military push-ups without stopping. Our conversation was interrupted. Everyone stands up. The Fifth Circuit Court declares the hearing open. The Honorable Judge Thomas is present, the bailiff announced to everyone in the courtroom. The judge took her seat and, adjusting her reading glasses, looked in our direction. Miss Howe, are you and your client ready to begin? Yes, Your Honor, Victoria replied. Okay, then continue. Victoria, or Vicky as I like to call her, attempted to present another round of motions. The judge listened to her monologue, which seemed 10 minutes long, and Vicky didn't even take a breath. Vicky argued that since I was given full custody of my daughter, Linda, what I was being subjected to was nothing less than cruel and inhumane punishment. Miss Howe, is your client willing to tell the court the whereabouts of his daughter and allow her ex-wife to see her? These are the only questions we are considering today. The court does not challenge his right to custody. However, his rights to meet with his ex-wife's daughter have not been respected for 7 months. The condition of his release, as previously stated, is that the court be informed of the whereabouts of his daughter. He must also allow his ex-wife to see his daughter under a court order. It is also indicated that his ex-wife is willing to supervise visits if she is allowed to see her daughter again. I looked at Victoria and shook my head. Your Honor, at this time, Mr. Moore refuses to reveal the whereabouts of his daughter. In addition, we would like to file a petition to give him access to his laptop so that he can monitor the daily activities of his company, Victoria said. Contempt, disgust, no, it was more like anger that ran across the judge's face. It was almost as if she was saying to herself, "How dare you disobey my order?" The motion is denied, the judge said loudly. Mr. Stephen Moore must remain in the custody of the county jail until he can inform the court of the whereabouts of his daughter, Linda Moore. With these words, the judge hit her gavel and said, "Next case." Before the bailiff could come to take me back to my cell, Vicky whispered, "She's against you. Did you know that? She'll keep you locked up until you tell her where Linda is." I could tell that Vicky, like the judge, was becoming more and more irritated with me. "Vicky, do whatever you need to do to get me out of here. I don't care how or what." "Steve, tell them." "I can't, and you know why. Just go back to your office and do what I'm paying you big money to do, and ask Carl to come by tomorrow and tell me how things are going in my company," I said, looking at the gloomy Vicky. "Steve, I'm running out of options." "Vicky, I believe that you will get me out of here and we will celebrate Christmas with our family again. So no matter how much it costs, get me the hell out of here." With these words, I was handcuffed again and escorted back to my cell. This is how my last 3 court appearances went. Vicky was right, the judge was really after me. She developed a reputation as a tough judge. She didn't allow anyone to manipulate her in her court, no matter how much money they had, and I had a lot. The next day, Carl stopped by and gave me an update on how things were going at my company. "Carl, I wish you would smile just once in a while. It would really cheer me up, damn it," I said with a smile. "Steve, how can I smile when so much is not getting done because you are sitting in this place? Tell them what the hell they want to know so we can get back to running your company." I glanced at him. "Okay, I tried." We continued. Over the next hour, he reported to me how everything was going. I trusted this guy as much as I trusted myself, and he never let me down. We were still making money, but the negative publicity in the newspapers was hurting some of our new business. Carl, these idiots are doing this to look good in the eyes of the media and their shareholders. You and I both know that they can't get our products anywhere else in the country, so they'll eventually have to turn to me. However, there are two companies that I want to pay dearly for this when they return. They smeared me in the press, and they will pay 10 times more for every word printed. By the way, how is our other project going? I knew that our conversations were always recorded. We are making progress, but it is slow and expensive. Carl, I said, looking him straight in the eye, I don't care how much money or people you have to put into it. I want it done and done soon. Understood? Yeah, boss. I just wanted you to know about the costs. I trust that my company will be in good condition when I leave here, and don't worry, you will be richly rewarded. By the way, find another group of lawyers to help Victoria Howe. The judge seems to have a personal grudge against me. See if we can get her off my case. You know if this doesn't work, you'll only make her angrier, right? And what? What is she going to do, put me in jail? I snorted. Also, do a background check on her. There must be something we can use. I told him, standing up as our hour was coming to an end. Take care of my baby, okay? I turned and walked back to my cell. That night, I counted the cracks in the ceiling and found another one after counting and recounting 5 times. Only 21. I have to complain about my conditions to the judge. I joked to myself before laying down on the bed. Divorce was terrible, if for no other reason than because I thought it would never happen to us. Thank God my father convinced me to enter into a rock-solid prenuptial agreement, or it could have been much worse. I had just established myself in the industry, and my love for Sheila had blinded me. At that time, it did not seem necessary to me to enter into such an agreement. Hell, we were going to love each other forever. Forever probably only lasted 8.5 years. Luckily, she agreed to sign it. She probably also thought that eternity meant forever, even though it didn't. Like I said, I'm rich, but above all, I'm smart and maybe a little arrogant. I probably could not have gone to school at all, but my mother said that I needed a normal upbringing. This included the school experience, although I was bored most of the time. However, she agreed for me to take college courses online, as long as it didn't interfere with my regular life. I graduated from college and received my bachelor's degree by the time I was a senior in high school. Mom also insisted that I go on dates at least twice a month. Most of the girls I met were dumb compared to me, and I quickly grew tired of their stupid teenage ways and games. At 5 feet 10 inches and 165 pounds, I wasn't an athlete and looked the part, but I didn't wear boring glasses or pocket protectors. I looked quite normal. You know, girls would tell each other about guys like me. Well, he has a great sense of humor. My parents weren't rich and I drove their old car. You can probably joke that I was a good match for the prom queen. Yes, of course, Mom. I really don't want to go tonight. I told her over and over as she drove me to one event after another. Honey, do this for me, okay? Meet a nice girl, talk to her, and even ask her to dance. Young man, you may be book smart, but you also need to learn how to communicate with others. You can't learn communication skills from a book. They have to be experienced. She always reminded me with a smile on her face. Now go and have a good time. My mother never took no for an answer. She was going to make me a sociable person even though I didn't want to be. I would rather blend in with my surroundings and live my own life as inconspicuously as possible. However, this turned out to be quite difficult after I was given the nickname the Brain, and it stuck. Kids can be so cruel sometimes. Graduating from high school set me free. I received a full scholarship to our state university, and could do almost anything I wanted after that. I double majored in chemistry and biology with a minor in mathematics. Through college, I received a research grant to work on food enzymes, and that's how I met Sheila. She was studying to be a laboratory assistant. Standing 5 feet 4 inches tall with wavy light brown hair, sparkling blue eyes, and a good figure, she was smart and sweet in her own way. I spent most of my time in the lab, and when she came in to do classwork, I was always there. Sometimes she would get stuck on a problem and ask me 1 or 2 questions. I was always happy to help over and over again. Simple questions developed into full-blown discussions about what I was working on. Although Sheila could understand the concepts of what I was trying to do, the principles of my methods usually eluded her. When I invited her to dinner, we shared pizza and a pitcher of soda, and I began to like her as much more than just a lab colleague. Alas, to my chagrin, she told me that her studies came first, and although we could date, she was not looking for a relationship at the moment. So we remained just friends and met from time to time when she allowed. After earning a dual doctorate in chemistry and biology and a master's degree in business, my short college years were over. I had learned everything I could and was now applying for my own government research grants. With some help, I got two and opened my laboratory in a small store. I took out loans, and my parents even took out a second mortgage on their house to help me finance my new lab and equipment. When I started working 14 to 16 hours a day, my mother quit her job to help me with the endless government paperwork. This allowed me to focus solely on my work. When I made my first breakthrough, it was especially remarkable because it happened after my grants had expired. The results and future profits were to be entirely mine. When I made my second and third breakthroughs, my father quit his job and became my business manager. Life was busy but good. One thing I never understood is that when you want to hire someone good, you don't have to look for them, all you have to do is let them know and they will find you. I needed two outstanding people to help me in my work. I wasn't making a lot of money, but with the right people I felt like I could do it within a couple of years, especially since my 4 patents would probably be approved in the next year. I probably interviewed 20 people who thought they were good, and when I was done with them they walked away with their tails hanging. Katie came on the recommendation of an old friend from school. She was extremely shy and almost never made eye contact with me, but she was super smart. "Katie, tell me about yourself. How are things going at home?" I asked. She looked at me and said that she lived with her parents and younger brother. She didn't have a boyfriend, which didn't surprise me, but she needed a job since she had just finished school. Her grades were excellent, and although I couldn't pay much, I offered her a job. "Katie, I can offer you $2,000 a month to get started. You will be on salary and will not mark time. I expect you to do your job, because I won't have time to look after you. If you do what I ask, you will grow with the company and so will your salary." "Mr. Moore, will there be a specific dress code here?" she asked, blushing slightly. "Katie, I don't care if you work as long as the job gets done." My answer made her blush even more. She agreed, and all I had to do was find one more employee. Carl worked for a large pharmaceutical company. He received a huge salary but was passed over for promotion due to office politics. He was more than a little annoyed. He was the one I was looking for, but we were far from agreeing on what I could afford to pay and what he thought he was worth. When he received an offer from another company, we met again. He threw the offer on my desk to show that he wasn't kidding about the amount. "Carl, if I were you, I would take this offer and run with it. However, in 3 years, when everything is fine with me and this amount seems like small change, I hope you will still think the same," I said, returning the papers to him. "But if you accept my latest offer, next year I will give you 1% ownership of my company, and every year after that up to 5%. So you can take the money that's on the table now, or you can work hard and have a real future ahead of you. The choice is yours." It took him 2 days, but he accepted my offer. I was ready. We were growing quickly, and I needed more help both in the lab and in the office. One day when I was out picking up lunch for everyone at the nearby Subway, I met Sheila. She was standing in line about 4 people ahead of me. As she walked past me with her order, she stopped to talk. Hell, we ended up having lunch together. She worked in a small laboratory about 2 miles away, and didn't make much money. Sheila believed that she needed experience before she could ask for what she felt she deserved. "What do you expect when you talk about money?" I asked. "Right now, I earn $1,200 a month without any benefits. I think I'm worth at least $2,000 in full medical services," she said without batting an eyelid. "Can you type?" "What do you mean, can I type?" "It's a simple question. Can you type, not just tap on a keyboard?" "Can't everyone do it?" she answered, not understanding where that was going. "Well, if you can type and don't mind doing all sorts of office work and lab work, I'd like to offer you a job." "Steve, who do you work for?" "For myself. I have my own laboratory on Canal Street. I already have 2 employees and my parents working for me, and we all need a little help here," I said, giving her my business card. "Think about it. Come by after work one day and I'll give you a tour." I wish I could talk longer, but I have lunch here for everyone, and they won't be happy that I took so long. Think about it, Sheila. Where have you been? I'm dying of hunger, asked Carl. Met an old friend and offered her a job, I said as I handed out food. Is she someone I should know? He said mockingly. Just a girl I dated in college a couple of times, that's all. And what will be her duties, if I may ask? Carl, you really are an idiot, I said, throwing him a can of Coca-Cola. Just asking, boss, but you don't have to answer if it's too personal. Everyone laughed except Mom. Sheila came over on Thursday after work. She knocked on the door, and when no one answered the doorbell from the front, she tried the door, found it open, and entered. Is there anyone here? She shouted, entering the door to the laboratory. Dad and I were last, and I stood up to greet her. Sheila, glad you could come, I said, walking up to her. Sheila, this is my dad, Ken. I introduced them to each other, and my dad extended his hand. Dad, Sheila and I studied together, I explained. So, this is the girl you offered the job to, he said, assessing her. Sheila, let me give you a quick tour of my creation. Over the next 2 hours, I showed her in detail where we were now and where I plan to go in the next couple of years. We've just signed 3 new contracts and are moving into a larger facility. My dad has secured the funding, and by Christmas we'll be double our current size. Sheila, I think you'd be a good addition to our team, and I can offer the salary you are seeking. Would you like to look at my resume or something before you offer me a job? You forgot we already worked together in college, Steve. You worked and I studied. Well, I know you're smart, hardworking, and open to new ideas. With those qualities, you'll be a great addition to our staff. In that case, I accept your offer. I need to give my current employer a week's notice, but I can start immediately after that. We shook hands, and my father watched without saying a word. I'll expect you early in the morning on the 15th, wear what you're comfortable in. Every day is like a Friday for us when it comes to clothing. You also don't have to worry about lunch. One of the perks is we provide lunch and dinner if we have to stay late. 10 minutes later she left and Dad and I finished work. You like her, don't you? Dad asked. Dad, it's just a girl I dated a couple of times, that's all. Steve, remember I'm the one you're talking to, he replied without smiling. We've got a tough 6 months ahead of us, and I need you to keep your head down until we move and get settled in the new place. Dad, you worry too much. Son, this is my job. Sheila started, and she was better than I expected. She picked things up quickly and became a valuable assistant almost overnight. Everyone was happy for me except my father. He watched my feelings for Sheila grow, and although he was receptive, he was also careful. Why doesn't Dad like Sheila? I asked my mother one night. Steve, he likes Sheila, but he feels like you have too much going on for romance right now. Mom, Dad proposed to you on the 3rd date, and 2 weeks later you guys got married, and he thinks I'm moving too fast? She was laughing. You know your father. He will watch over you until the day he dies, but I will talk to him. Steve, I'm your girlfriend, right? Well, if not, then I don't know what we've been doing for the last 7 hours. Not stupid. I mean, we're together, right? I sat with my back to the head of the bed and took a glass of wine from the nightstand. Okay, what happened? I asked, taking a sip and handing it to her. I just want to know that we're walking down the road together, that's all. In other words, you want to make sure I don't just use your hot body for my own gratification? I said with a laugh as I reached for her. She retorted by hitting me with a pillow. Do I have to break it down for you? I'm falling in love with you, and I know you love me, but I'm not sure how much. There, I said it. She finished her wine and looked at me with a worried expression. Well, does this mean I have to give up all the other hot babes I date every other night? I joked, but when she didn't smile, I realized that she was serious. Listen, honey, I really care about you, and I think you know that. It's love, I think so, but give me some time, okay? After we move, we'll have a nice break and we can explore all our options. Steve, I think we've already explored all my options except one, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. I just needed to know you weren't toying with me, that's all. Sheila, I do 2 things. I don't lie and I don't play games with the people I love. I said, calming her down by kissing her. So now that we've got that cleared up, what is this opportunity that you haven't mentioned yet? We returned to what we had been doing for the last 24 hours, each trying to tire the other out. I won. After that, we became an official couple and everyone knew and accepted it, even my father. The next few months were tough. Things were going well, and with the move we had little time for each other. By the 15th of December we were in our building, and by the 22nd everything was up and running in time for Christmas. We closed the place between Christmas and New Year's, and everyone relaxed over the holidays. We spent Christmas Eve at her parents' and Christmas Day at mine. By the evening of the 25th we were exhausted. "I'm serious." "I'm serious too," I replied. I sat her on my lap. "Steve, look at me please. I want us to get an apartment together." This made me stop for a moment and look at her with real eyes. "I'm serious. I think it's time for us to move in together." "Steve, I'm 23 and you're 27. Don't you think it's time for us to move? For what we spend on hotel rooms we could pay for an apartment," she added in an uncertain voice. "That is, of course, if you want to." I figured that sooner or later this would definitely happen, and I was already thinking about it. With the move, everything should return to normal, whatever that may be. I really like the idea of us living together. "Okay, when do you want to do it?" I think it surprised her a little. She was probably preparing herself for an argument, and now she just sat there looking at me until her brain caught up with what I had just said. "Oh my God, this will be so great. We'll have our own place, and we won't even have to wear clothes if we don't want to." She bounced on the bed. When she stopped and had a serious look on her face, I became a little worried. "How do you think your parents will react to this news, especially your father?" It took about 3 weeks, but we found a suitable place and moved in together. My parents wanted to know what my intentions were, but all I told them was that I wanted to get to know Sheila better. "I think you know her pretty well," Mom said with a wink, "judging by all the Hampton and bills I've paid over the last few months." Dad didn't say a word, but he knew he couldn't control me anymore. Life was good. Over the next 2 years, my business grew rapidly, and we expanded once more before finally settling into another larger facility. That same year at Christmas I proposed to Sheila and she accepted. Dad insisted on a prenuptial agreement, and although I objected, Sheila did not even think about signing it. I made 2 modifications to make it less difficult, but in the end we all got what we wanted. 3 months later Sheila became pregnant, and her mother was overjoyed. When Linda was born, Sheila quit her job and stayed home to care for her. She was beautiful and looked just like her mother. She had the same light brown hair, blue eyes, and a small mole on her right ankle. Mom and Sheila became friends like thieves while Dad and I ran the company. The next 5 years were good for us. My business nearly quadrupled in size, and I increased my number of employees from 4 to 14. Usually I still feel busy, but Sheila requires my presence at dinner at least 3 nights a week. We bought a nice house, more than we really needed, and with some free time, Sheila became involved in charity work and fundraising for the Children's Wish Foundation. "Girls, there are no more events this weekend." I whined. "I thought the 3 of us would sneak away and have some fun," I said, wrapping my arms around her waist and kissing her. "If you cancel, I will make it worth your time," I said pleadingly. "Honey, you know that Saturday's auction is important to me and it's for a good cause," she replied, kissing me. "These kids won't be able to sneak away for the weekend, but if we raise enough money, we can at least make some of them smile." She had a good heart, and although I didn't like it, she was right. So on Saturday night we all went. I told my parents that if I had to go they would go too. They didn't care, except that my dad said he wasn't going to dance no matter what my mom said. The evening turned out to be quite pleasant until I met Ken and his wife Connie. He had been working with Sheila on this project, and I already knew that he owned a successful aircraft parts company just outside of town. Their biggest client was the US government, and with 2 wars going on, business was going well. "Steve, this is Ken and Connie Collins," my wife introduced us. "Ken has been a tremendous help in putting together the items we will be auctioning today. It wasn't hard. I just went to a few places and got them to double what they planned to give and got the rest of the money in donations," Ken said. "Ken, don't be so humble. Thanks to you, we will be able to send over 100 kids to various camps this summer. You should be proud of yourself," Sheila said. "If it weren't for Connie, I never would have done this. She ran the company while I was traveling around raising funds. He looked at his wife and smiled. I don't know what I would do without her, he added. The smile she sent him back was pleasant but forced, the kind of smile you give someone when you're angry and you don't want it to show. Ken, I see some people over there that you should meet. Maybe you can talk them into throwing in a few extra dollars, Connie said as she led her husband away. The only thing I knew about him was that he had money and he wanted everyone to know it. Arrogant and pretentious would be good words to describe him, but I knew Connie very well. She came from old money and was tough as nails. She was an excellent negotiator and a worthy opponent for her competitors. She was more than qualified to run the business while her husband was traveling around fundraising and entertaining, but she didn't seem to like it. This is the last person I want to run into, I thought to myself. The dinner was good, but the speeches were too long as usual. Everyone was thanked for their help, especially Ken and Sheila. After dinner, the music started and my father cringed. Mom persuaded him to dance and I happily took my beautiful wife into my arms. I wasn't initially bothered when Ken asked Sheila to dance. Although nothing strange was happening on the floor, what bothered me was the way he was holding her, talking and laughing with her as they moved to the beat of the music. This was Ken's only and last dance with my wife that evening. When the auction began, everyone got involved as this or that item was sold for double its value, knowing it was for a good cause. When we came to large lots, bids were no longer placed so freely. Everyone knew that money was tight everywhere. I bought a couple of mid-priced items and that was all I was going to do, until Sheila asked me to bid on a weekend in wine country. Please, darling, do this for me. How could I refuse? The bidding got heated and Ken seemed to really want to win for some reason. When I made my final bet, Ken immediately offered $1,000 more, and since there were no other bids, he won. When he went to collect his prize, he said he did it to take his wife there for her birthday. Everyone applauded and admired such a sweet gesture, but his wife did not. She just sat and sipped wine from her glass. I think things are not going smoothly in their paradise, I thought to myself. Steve, we should have won this trip, Sheila said with a pout. Honey, for the amount he paid, we could go for a week instead of 3 days. Steve, he did this for his wife. What a romantic gesture. Okay, I'll buy you flowers on the way home. How about that? She just looked at me with a look that said it wouldn't be enough. That's how it all started. It is said that a cockroach can fit into a gap 64 fractions of an inch wide simply by squeezing through. For me, Ken was exactly that, and now I only regretted that I did not trample him when I had the opportunity. However, life moved on. I worked, Sheila continued to do charity work, and the three of us were one big happy family until May 21st. It was late and I was thinking about some documents when I looked at my watch. It was 7 in the evening and I had to get out of there. I turned off the light and headed to my mom's office. She sat with her head down on the table. I don't pay my employees to sleep on the job even if they gave birth to me, I said with a loud laugh, but she didn't move. Mom, wake up. Dad will kill me if I don't get you out of here. I walked up to her and put my hand on her shoulder. It was cold, stone cold. When paramedics finally arrived, they were unable to revive her. She was already dead. They said it looked like a heart attack, but they couldn't be sure until all the tests were done. Everything for the next 24 hours went in slow motion.